Rolling.
Ready for the launch.
The trash rocket launch?
Or the trash racket.
The trash rocket is going to be our trash racket.
And in 2021, it is the year of the trash rocket or racket, depending on how you love and appreciate us at the Catch the Sky podcast. But we love and appreciate you. To all of you out there, we thank you for joining us. Once again, it's Saif and T in the house.
What's up, my man?
I was hoping that Arizona and Cleveland would join each other together tonight in playoff matrimony.
It's like... So I would like to start off by saying that I was wrong. In our first sports episode with our friend Darnell from the Root of All Culture podcast, I predicted that the Browns would not make the playoffs and find a way to fuck it up. And they almost did. They almost did. And I told him specifically that I would not be able to point out the way in which they would fuck up. And they lost to the Jets after not having any receivers. And I thought that was going to be it. And then they would lose to Pittsburgh this week, and we'd be able to just point at that Jets loss and be like, that was fucking it. But it didn't happen. They tried to choke it away at the end of this game today. That onside kick was pretty fucking dicey. But, but they pulled it out, and now they get a rematch at full strength next week. I'm looking forward to it.
Against Pittsburgh?
Mm-hmm. I just hope that it's not 2002 all over again.
At least you're in the playoffs, my friend. And I think for the listeners at home, particularly our segment of the audience who does not give a shit about American sports, believe me, I know exactly who you are, and I empathize with you to some degree. But you have to understand, T and I's origin story, a lot of people just like, how do you even know T? And people don't know that we have... Our beginning, our birth story is all centered around American football, around sports. And so if it wasn't for these games, American football specifically, we would not be sidekicks here on the Catch the Sky podcast. Specifically, I remember listening to the Bill Simmons podcast in my car coming home from Vegas, and Bill Simmons spoke ill of the Cleveland Browns, and you lost your goddamn mind, sir, to the point where I had to cease the podcast. Little did I know, you in brewing in your head, you were like, one day I will start my own podcast and trash the Browns myself.
Oh my God, that's fucking great. Oh,
I'll be doing the trashing around here.
Yeah. I'm the trash expert here. That is fan-fucking-tastic. The first time I actually came out there was for the baseball games. Mm-hmm. It was the Pirates versus the Diamondbacks game. And I'm not even a fan of either. I guess I'm loosely a Pirates fan, but I'm obviously an Indians fan first.
I'm sorry, is that a team anymore?
Oh, that's right. I'm going to have to save all my gear.
It will become collector's items. And of the many things that we left behind in 2020, the name of the Cleveland Indians is no longer going to be a thing moving forward. So 2021, already a great start. The Washington football team made the playoffs tonight. Formerly, they used the moniker Red Skin instead of black skin, white skin, brown skin. It's red skin. And for some reason, it took 2020 to be the catalyst for that.
George Floyd.
Yes. But just as much all civil rights fighters who have been battling this struggle for decades and centuries. And
we had this conversation though before, I remember. Mm-hmm. So slowly but surely things are changing. Let's hope that things can continue to change in 2021.
Which brings me to some of my New Year's resolutions as far as keeping up with things. I'm trying to get more fit and healthy, but I was really pleased to find out that friends of mine wanted to form a group to come and maybe work out together. Because of the pandemic and the gyms are closed, maybe people just come over to my house. So I have devised a way for them to do exercises while simultaneously washing my car, maybe painting my fence, maybe doing a little Cobra Kai, Miyagi-Do type things just to get my friends in shape. I do require that they have to have full-on sweatsuits and they have to match, and a headband has to be required. So
you went ahead and paid all that money to have that wall built, and you could have put these poor bastards to work.
Yeah, I think there is this massive boulder in my backyard. So I guess I want to invite any of my friends who are looking for a real workout and come on over and see if you can move this rock. And if we can get it out there for bulk trash, you win a prize. You get to fend off diabetes once and for all.
And the bulldozer will come down the street, pick it up, and load it onto the trash rocket.
It always comes back to trash rockets. Speaking of rockets, there is... Anytime I guess I'm a little still sore from Cleveland being in the playoffs and Arizona not tonight. And it makes me think about which is the more pathetic location for sports. Is it Cleveland, Ohio, or Phoenix, Arizona? And you and I have been arguing over who is more pathetic and more horrid as a sports city. And we don't agree. I firmly am in the Arizona camp, and you are firmly in the Cleveland, Ohio camp.
It's Cleveland, bro. There's a reason when you listen to the Jim Rome show, he tells you not to come at Cleveland because Cleveland's had enough.
Isn't Jim Rome just another West Coast personality who we're forced to listen to just because major media corporations made him relevant? And as a result, he's seen as a credible expert when in reality he's just an asshole that insulted Chris Everett. Just the whole demeaning of Jim Everett and telling him that he was Chris Everett, the female tennis superstar, to get his name on the map. Like, is that what we need to do? Do we need to go out there and be shock jocks and just insult people just to become famous? Do we really need to go to a Target and rip off masks? Is that how we make it?
Hashtag trash rocket. Oh my God.
But as I said, I don't want to let Simmons or Jim Rome insult my cities. Bill Simmons did a wonderful takedown of the Phoenix Suns, who are one of the more pathetic basketball franchises, thanks to Robert Sarver, no less. And whereas the Cleveland Cavaliers have an NBA championship, thanks to in part to Lebanon James, as I like to call him, when he single-handedly destroyed the most winningest team from Golden State.
That was awesome.
And just that was beautiful. Oh, Cleveland, this is for you.
It was.
And a lot of my friends give me shit, and you give me shit for supporting Cleveland. But I think sports is something you and I, regardless of the rivalry, and it's part of who we are, our origin story, why you and I connect. We do love sports, and I look forward to the day where we get to watch sporting events in person again, which will hopefully come soon. But again, it's a reminder of how devastating 2020 was to sports for us and that legacy. In fact, I was just thinking Paul Westphal, who was the former coach of the Phoenix Suns, passed away here within a week of this recording. And it got me thinking about a lot of the athletes we lost in 2020. And I know this is something you've thought about, and we've talked about this personally, about living on forever, like Squints Palladora. Forever. Forever.
Classic.
People do die, and there are some people we remember and there's some people we don't. But it also depends on how we talk about people in death. And I know there are ways we promote, put people on pedestals. One of the earliest calls to this in literature are Dante's Inferno and athletes becoming gods, and they become revered. And you and I practice that religion where Sunday, instead of a temple, we are visiting sports stadiums. We're gathering around our home with food to watch television. Specifically, men in short shorts run up and down, or tight shorts for that matter. All that we can revere them, and that when they die, we can eulogize them, like Pat Tillman here in Arizona, or Paul Westphal, or Muhammad Ali, right? So they're bigger than that. So Ali being bigger on a larger scale.
Yeah, and that really makes me think of who lives on forever. How do they do that? You mentioned Muhammad Ali. He obviously had an impact outside of the ring.
He was a civil rights pioneer. And so I always find this interesting because people, although they appreciate maybe Martin Luther King or Muhammad Ali now, they hated him then. Like, Martin Luther King was one of the most disliked men in the country. Like, people bought replicas of the rifle that was used to shoot him and hung it on their mantle. And so I think there's something to be said about sports and how it ties into death and how we treat each other and how we relate to each other. Because I believe there's good in a lot of these things. And Remember the Titans is a great example of that, where they're depicting people coming together, around sports and getting rid of the evil or the bad. And then later on in that same narrative, that same story, people die and they all still come together. And so
I think it's this love that you mentioned that makes the cultural impact of these athletes significant. We almost immortalize them, like you said, like gods. So Babe Ruth, for example, is going to live forever. Michael Jordan, I'm sure.
Well, he hasn't died yet, right?
Yeah.
Michael Jordan will live on, right? I think.
Yes. That's the point I'm making. Who else? Who has passed that you can think of off the top of your head that just comes to mind?
John Thompson, the Georgetown basketball coach. He's also one of the first African-American coaches. And he was what we would call a leader of men. And that is something we revere in this culture, at least with that concept or that idea, that mentoring people to go in a direction. And I don't know what it is that Thompson did. I just know that all the information about him was always positive, and he was doing good things there at Georgetown. I don't know if that was because of things he was doing or if that's just because Georgetown had a really good public relations department based out of the DC area, and they were good at getting stories in the national press about how great John Thompson is. And that's often what people revere people depending on how their story is told. And so Kobe Bryant's another one we lost. And it seems that the conversation around Kobe continues to be, he was a great athlete. First and foremost, you have to respect that. And so the character component
is almost overlooked.
Because again, can gods be revered even if they were bad gods, right? And so I guess if that's the case, then if we're going to revere Kobe Bryant, then we should also revere Pete Rose. And not that you can make the argument that the two aren't comparable in many ways, but they've become villains in our sport. And Pete Rose hasn't died yet, but it would be a shame for Pete Rose to die and then be put into the Hall of Fame for baseball. And is that what it's going to take? Is it going to take a man's death to make that happen? Or can we forgive the person now and move that along? And can just we as a culture forgive Kobe Bryant? I want to forgive Kobe Bryant. I do. But I'm a ardent Suns fan, and it's very difficult for me because of all the pain that he's caused me. And a lot of people didn't like Kobe Bryant, except LA. LA was the city that stood behind him, knowing that he had done some things in Colorado that were inappropriate.
And that too should be part of his legacy. Unfortunately, when you talk about Kobe Bryant 100 years from now, most people are just going to probably talk about his athletic accolades.
I would agree. Because other people who died this year include some baseball players that just come to mind. Joe Morgan, Lou Brock, Tom Seaver, Tony Fernandez. And quite honestly, T, I know nothing but good things about them. But I bet if I dug deep enough, I might learn something that, Tom Seaver hit a kid on his bicycle once or something and took off. I don't know. It could be that Tom Seaver used to shop at Wayfair. I don't know. There could be a number of things that the man could have done.
Jesus. Oh my God.
Whatever it might be, it's like, can we overlook that? And so I think that death brings out something in superstars, in celebrity, when death does become, it becomes, you become mortalized forever. Immortalized, is it? Or, yeah. Canonized. Lionized. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it just goes to highlight how people want to live on past death. I think everybody wants to be remembered. I think one of our greatest fears would be to just die and be forgotten, right?
Is that something that you're mindful of?
Yeah. I'd like to know that I had a positive impact on the world.
That you left it better than when you found it?
Mm-hmm. And so by doing this, there's definitely a little bit of ego behind it because I want to live on past my death and probably this recording. And any that we do after it or before it will live on past our deaths. And people will be able to go back and listen to what we did and what we discussed and hopefully learn from it even after we're gone. And that would be a good feeling.
I could see something happening with us where we would get some schools named after us, right? And maybe a statue or two. And then later on down the road, they discover that, when we were 22 years old, we got involved in a fight or something, or at
I got a bottle broken over my head.
Right.
Christ.
Oh, the shenanigans. I hope there's no photos of me in Mexico, otherwise the statues would come down.
Oh my God.
I think it would be, I don't know, maybe I'll just have to stick for now to just building a monolith in the backyard and not worry so much about having a school named after me at some point or a building named after me. But
yeah, I don't think I need anything or any sort of place named after me. We could just build monoliths all over the place.
And we're building this audio journal. And
we're building a trash rocket. So, I mean, there's that. If we get that idea off the ground, that could be our positive impact on society.
As I said on Twitter, would you agree that a trash rocket sounds cool? At the very least, we may not agree on anything, but can we all agree that trash rocket sounds cool?
We got to make this happen. Somebody get Elon Musk's attention. We need to start shooting the trash at the fucking sun.
He's made more than enough money during this pandemic. He needs to sit down. I'm done with Elon and his, what is he, a centimillionaire now? I don't even know how much money does one need. at this point. It's just.
But he signs us, and then we become millionaires or billionaires.
It starts like, which evil billionaire do you pick? Do you pick Bezos? Do you pick Zuckerberg? Do you pick Elon Musk? I feel like Elon Musk is the better, or Bill Gates, right? And so those are your four. You gotta fuck one, kill one, marry one, and start a business with one.
So whichever one wants to pick up the trash rocket idea, we're ready. We're ready. You can talk to our PR people. I'll give you our intern's information.
I would probably have sex with Zuckerberg.
Jesus Christ.
He seems.
That's awful.
You want to go into business with Elon Musk. Okay, so we've covered that. Who am I marrying? You're marrying Bill Gates. Bill Gates because he's older. And, well, Bezos, you could always just divorce him and take half.
That's why I feel like I'd fuck him.
I don't know, just from the conspiracy side and just because of the punishment that Microsoft Excel has imposed on my life, maybe I want to kill Bill Gates. I don't, yeah. But otherwise, I appreciate the malaria thing, Bill. Like, keep doing you, buddy.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. So,
but I don't know what a fucking pivot table is, okay? Fix the pivot tables. Get out of my life.
You don't know what a pivot table is?
It's not something I work with on a daily basis.
Go fuck yourself. So anyway, we were talking about death.
I think death is just a way for us to entice listeners to get through us talking about sports. I don't know. What is it? Women love these crime shows. Is that me? Is that a stereotype? Is that a generalization that women just love?
No. South Park did a whole episode about this, about investigative murder porn. I told you. People need to start tuning into the episode that I make a case for South Park. They're on it, on more shit than you think.
What is that, episode 3?
It's early on. Regardless, the point still stands. They have an episode for everything. So here we are talking about death and murder, and they did an episode.
They don't have a Trash Rocket episode.
Well, nobody has a Trash Rocket episode. Trademark.
Okay. Trademark. Dibs. Shotgun. Calling shotgun on this.
Oh, my God.
No, but women do love the gore. And I've never quite understood that. Maybe they can explain it to us. Maybe they can female-splain it to us.
Maybe it's because they have a gory experience themselves every month.
we are going to the hell.
Is this
not going to hell? We're going to the hell. Edit all this.
No, absolutely not. Oh my God.
So I was trying to explain the podcast to people, and someone that told me that we're like Ren and Stimpy. Is that fair?
I mean, sure. They're famous.
Does it count if cartoons don't die?
Yeah, they live forever.
Yeah, and this is our audio biography. This is our audio autobiography. Or is it biography? And in 2021, we have a hard time talking about death. And we're not talking about death, even though there's a large amount of death happening around our door every single day. We're losing 9/11 numbers in amounts of people. I like to say that because we seem to care after 9/11 about that. And I get the sense that this is something we've been talking about since episode 1 and 2. Do we actually care about the other enough with regards to death? Yeah.
Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we do.
I guess what could we be doing? Does it help to talk about it? Or are we just wasting our time? Should we just get moving on the daily business that we're functioning in.
Some people just press on as if it doesn't bother them, but I think death does bother everybody to a degree, and I think it's constructive to let it out and communicate that to other people. There's this macho man mentality that people think it's a vulnerability to show weakness or be sad when somebody that they care about dies, and I never understood that.
Oh yeah, macho man.
Oh yeah. I just love that he made an appearance in Spider-Man as Bonesaw.
The Tobey Maguire ones?
Mm-hmm. Tobey Maguire's coming back.
Those don't count.
He's coming back, so it is going to count. Suck a dick.
Is this Marvel? I went on a date with a girl who was obsessed with Marvel, and she complained the whole time about her ex-husband, Brian.
Is this the one? Is this the one with the shaved head?
Yes.
Ooh, all right.
So
and she's upset about Brian, so that definitely means that she was looking for the D. She's trying to get some revenge against Brian. So what'd you do about it? Go on.
Well, she knew that Brian was a sports fan, that Brian liked the Cardinals, St. Louis, that is, the baseball team, and she thought it was just cute, but she didn't realize that after they got married and had children that he would become obsessed and not participate in the day-to-day activities that are required of parenting, and just completely disengage and just be like, I want to go out and I want to get drunk and watch the game. And so it became no fun for her. And he got so bored with her that he decided that within their group of friends, he would cheat on her within that group. And then once they finalized the divorce, cheat on her again with someone else in that same group of people and kind of be permanent with it. And I was just astonished to hear the tragedy. And I didn't know how to bounce back from any of that T to give her the D.
God damn it. Why do you not call me in these situations?
I went through her fridge. She didn't have any M&Ms. Okay?
What the fuck is going on?
There's nothing.
You are just a fucking train wreck. Oh my God.
It wasn't a love connection.
Jesus Christ, because she wanted the D. There was no love to be had other than between the sheets, and that was it. And you didn't even fucking close.
I'm terrible at closing these days. And
so disappointed.
We're open. We're just open.
Oh my God. So I think that's another thing. People seeking companionship. It's some people don't want to die alone. They want to procreate and pass on their legacy that way through their children, have a positive impact on them. So this is our baby, Saif.
This is our baby.
We don't need any fucking kids. We don't need any women. They're helpful to have around for some reasons, but we have dogs now. We got our hands full here.
I have work. I got a fur dog. I don't have time to be a parent. But at the same time, this is me sitting down with you and being like, hey, study hard, read a book. Brush your teeth. Floss, for God's sakes. Would it be too much to floss? Like, floss every day. You'll save your parents tons of money on dental work. So, boom. There you go, parents. You're welcome. Have your kid listen to the Catch the Sky podcast. We'll have a parenting segment each week. Listen to these guys. They know what they're talking about. I was at a New Year's party this week, and my friend is nuts with the fireworks, and he left out a Roman candle, and I proceeded to take it and almost blew my hand off in the process. And so later on that night, one of the kids that is there at the party like comes up to me and is like, can you teach me how to do this? And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, nor should I be. I didn't say any of this to the kid. I am the last person you want to take advice from. Either. I mean, I gave him the best information I could and hoped that he wouldn't blow his hand off. And you know what? He did just fine, America. Okay, so take that.
So maybe your advice isn't half bad. I think it is.
It always is. Anybody would even listen to us is still beyond me. Like, what the fuck is, like, anybody, we're 30 minutes into this thing. What are you doing listening to this podcast? What the hell is wrong with you in your life that you're listening to us? What the fuck is wrong with you? Go read a book, asshole.
Well, they're waiting for us to talk about death, like we said.
We're going to die just trying to talk about the damn subject.
Everybody's going to be dead before we get there.
I don't want to talk about death. It's upsetting.
Well, that's why I think most people just avoid the conversation. It is upsetting. But I think it's also helpful to let it out that you're upset sometimes. It's okay to be upset. Everybody gets upset around death. So if we're all having the same feelings, why don't we just let it out?
I was sad tonight when I learned that the Arizona Cardinals would not make it to the playoffs. but I was more upset over that than learning that 2,000 more Americans died, or that globally thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people are dying, right? I'm not as connected to that. And so I guess if I'm not connected to death directly, then it's something that I want to keep out of sight, out of mind, and away from my mental wellness. Because any experience I've had with death has always been negative, and I've never enjoyed it. For that reason, it's taken on such a morbid occasion, becomes a solemn act and situation. And in my death, if people aren't making jokes, if people aren't laughing and being loving to each other, that would frustrate me more, to learn that everything would go negative more so. And I find that with death, there is a negative connotation. How can we change the negativity of death and turn that into a positive?
We need to become funeral planners of some sort. Where we throw parties at like the funeral part, like at the viewing. You come through the line, you get a shot. You pour one out for your homie.
Weed is legal now, so
get a complimentary joint or something.
I'm going to come back and haunt some people if they pour out and waste liquor on my behalf. Just don't waste anything, okay? That would actually make me much happier if you recycled as soon as the party was over. Make sure you reuse every goddamn thing in there. And don't make a mess.
Just bury you in the backyard.
Yeah, exactly.
Use you as fertilizer.
Honestly, if I could be donated, like if my dog could eat me, that would be fine. I would be perfectly fine with
Jesus
that. I want to be enjoyed.
We could bury you under the monolith.
And see, that's the thing. The monolith to me is a representation of a penis. Any of these figures, like General Washington has a big phallus in D.C. and many monuments or mausoleums, they're often feel to be, there's a tribute element to them that seems to represent the penis, depending again on the importance. There's always a monolith per se. Really, it's what it is, an antenna rod, and I don't want anything hitting me, so I don't know. I'm a little torn there. I wouldn't mind getting hit by lightning, though, in death. That seems like that would be okay. I feel like that would wake me up or something. And then I would go haunt some people.
So what, now you're like Frankenstein's monster? Like what?
Well, what's the alternative, T? Like getting cremated, right? And in that case, you know what would be great is if they just put me in a coffee can and actually snuck me back into the grocery store and just left me there, right? And then but cleaned it up real good so it looks like, and then someone would buy me.
And complain to Folgers immediately.
They'd come back in. They'd be like, I demand a refund, right? I'd become a return bin item.
They toss you in the trash. And then
the staff would just look. What the hell is this?
Throw it in the garbage and then heave it into the sun.
Yeah. Just end result, trash rocket.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Hey, you'd go out into space. That'd be pretty fucking cool. It'd be a free ride to space.
I kind of like this as a premise for a Pixar movie where you follow someone's cremated remains around and just see where they go. So now they get dumped into the dumpster and then they end up in the trash rocket eventually. they would go to the landfill at some point, right? Probably get stuck there for a little while.
There'd be no dialogue. It's a can of Donnie's ashes just traveling around.
An insect might intervene every now and then.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Good night, sweet prince.
Yeah, good night. Then I'd end up in Bangladesh or China, or whoever's going to buy our trash next.
Nobody's buying it. We're heaving it into the sun. We're going to talk this into a reality.
Hit your boy Elon up.
What's the quote from Big Lebowski? If you will it, dude, it is no dream. We're going to just make it happen. We're going to will it into existence. Safe.
We've been doing a weekly job of that for sure.
I'm liking the t-shirt idea. So if any artists out there want to submit some ideas for what a trash rocket might look like going into the sun, I want something that's from the perspective of space. So a cartoonish trash rocket en route to the sun. We're going to blast that on the front of this shirt, Catch the Sky podcast on the back. And then if any sponsors want to get in on that, we'll throw you on the back of the shirt too.
Angel investors. We're looking for people to get in on the ground floor here. And it starts with the trash rocket.
Angel investors.
At the very least, all of this, at the end of the day, if we're just getting some fashion out of this, I'm okay with that. But I would, do you want to talk about how this subject even came up? Why did we even decide to talk about death this week?
Oh, yeah. My great-grandmother passed away. So it is important for us to mention that this episode is dedicated to her in her memory. And she was 95. So I can't be disappointed that I lost her at this point in my life. Of course, we always wish that everybody could live forever. And that goes back to why legacy is so important.
Besides you, as a member of her family, what is your great-grandmother's legacy? How would you verbalize that for the audience?
So I would say her legacy is probably her grounded reality. She was a woman of deep faith. I will mention that. But she also had a realistic outlook on life. So I remember one of the last conversations I had with her when she was still living in her house at the age of 94. She told me how she knew that her time was coming and she didn't want it to, but she's lived a long life. It made me tear up because I know that she knows that she's at her end. And it's tough because you know that there's only going to be a couple of more times that you see that person, and they know that too. So she just knew that this was going to be one of the last times that we'd see each other, and that's okay. And she was all right with it. I think one of the things she would always say is, well, what are you going to do? Because what can you do? What can you fucking do? Life sometimes throws you a curveball. Then a slider, then a sinker, and then it beams one right off your nuts.
I never got a chance to meet your great-grandmother, but I believe I would have liked her instantly, just as I was drawn to you eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it kind of ties back to the origin story. Again, I question why your cousin brought this lunatic into my life. And I think everything has a purpose in that. And yet here we are sharing the legacy of your wonderful great-grandmother. And
Yeah, I love her. Again, I'm lucky that I was able to have her for this many years. 30 years is a long time to have your great-grandmother.
95 is a good run. I don't quite know where I want to go. Like if I can make it to 150, I would, but 77 seems to be the average. I think when I was younger, I was like 60s was fine. But now that I've gotten older, I'm like, 95 sounds cool. Like I could go for 100 just so Willard Scott can say hi to me on TV. Like that would be fantastic if I could make it to 100.
It'd be nice. If everybody could, they would.
Audience has no idea who Willard Scott is. And for those of you who don't know, I'm going to take the time. He was a weatherman on NBC, and he was so full of joy, and he would always shout out to people who were over 100 on his morning weather forecast. So if you made it to 100, Willard Scott would shout you out.
And that will be part of his legacy.
Yeah. Right? Who knows what Willard did? He probably shopped at Wayfair too, you know what I mean? But we don't care. He's immortalized.
And like I said, there's part of me that hopes that we can have a big enough impact that people will remember us positively when we pass away.
And I think I can't say so much appreciation for those of you who are hanging in now and understanding that, you know, tonight we're not just talking about the death of people, but we're talking about the death of the Arizona Cardinals playoff hopes, including my dreams and my hopes and my optimism for the day. But in addition, just the continuous agony that comes from defeat and how much that kills me deep inside and kills a lot of sports fans deep inside.
And there's a lot of agony that people feel in death as well. It's painful, and it's important to just let it out sometimes. It's okay. Everybody hurts. It doesn't make you vulnerable or any less of a person to be upset that somebody that you love died. You can cry. You can tell somebody that you're in pain. You can tell somebody that you miss them. You can tell somebody that you wish you had said this to them before they had gone. Do whatever is productive for you. Some people like to just compartmentalize it and pretend nothing's bothering them, but I really have a hard time believing that they're okay. That kind of shit freaks me out a little bit. Because maybe you just didn't care about that person enough. Like, I cry every time I fucking leave your house. And that's just because I'm not going to see you again for a couple of months. But to me, it's just because I care about you and I love you. And I guess some people just don't develop that deep of a relationship or connection with other people. Or they're robots.
There's no manual. There's nothing in the K through 12 education process that I recall. I remember sex ed was a disaster, so I can't imagine that talking about death was even better. I remember our librarian died.
My God. Jesus Christ. That seems like a whole other story in itself. Your librarian died?
Well, this is you don't know. She's the first person that I think I can recall at a young age learning had died. I understood what death was. The news would report things, but there was nobody I knew, right? And then my grandfather would be next. And then there was a girl in our high school. She got into a car accident, and everybody made that was a very tragic moment. And I didn't know this person, but I ended up becoming very close friends with her sister, which was actually more unique. So that was and through the sister, I ultimately mourned this revered high school figure. But other than that, I mean, like, death has never been too close to me, and I'm appreciative of that.
Good. I'm glad. I hope it stays that way.
You were going, oh my God, and I was like, what were you about to bring up?
we should propose death ed to the school board.
Death ed instead of sex ed?
Not instead of it, but just in addition to it.
Well, they can learn anything from Pornhub anyway. So, well, all right. Is there death porn? That would be interesting. I know that Dick was bringing up COVID porn or vaccine porn. Jesus, here we go.
I was going to just say, you might as well remember this bit for our season 3 trailer right now, because that is fucking cool.
Just the porn is weird, and I get sucked into the plot lines. It's always, as the older I get, the more I'm less tolerant of erratic behavior or poor decision making. How are you just letting the TV repairman in the house? Like, no way. Make sure he is outside. Yeah.
Just makes me think of the legacy of porn stars.
Yes. Adam's World, we're coming for you, baby.
So everybody has a legacy. I guess it's just how significant it is depends on the proximity of that person to you personally, or how big of an impact they had culturally, whether that be on a local, national, or global scale.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to mourn the loss of somebody that you love. I'm not a huge Linkin Park fan, but anytime I hear the song In the End, I can't help but get somewhat emotional. I didn't have a real big attachment to that band. I wasn't a huge fan of them as opposed to any other band. But knowing what that person was saying in their words and how many people they touched through their music, me being one of them to a degree, I can't help but get a little bit emotional, especially it being a suicide survivor myself. So I can relate in that extra dynamic that some people might not be able to without going through that experience. So you listen to those lyrics, and for somebody that hasn't had that personal struggle, it might not have the same significance as somebody who has.
That band is actually from Arizona.
Boom, there you go.
Park. Yeah.
Part of their legacy. And this episode is going to be part of our legacy.
This is your monolith, T.
So if you have any particular death stories that you want to share with us, or want to submit your trash rocket ideas for a t-shirt, you may do so at CTS Terry on Twitter, or by searching for us on Facebook and Instagram, Just type in Catch the Sky Podcast, hit the like button, and be sure to share with your friends if you're enjoying what you're hearing. Saif, I think this was a constructive conversation tonight. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
So with death, we do go negative, but there needs to be positive. And one of the more positive deaths that I'm happy about is the death of the Washington football team name and the Cleveland baseball team name. So we'll say goodbye. And in that death, I'm very optimistic about our future.
Yeah, I think it's good when we can bury old habits, names, social norms, things of that nature, and take a positive step forward. I think it's also good to reflect on the life of people who have passed and see what lessons we can learn from them. Oftentimes we just bury these people and move on and never reflect on what they did and how that might impact our life. Learn a positive lesson when somebody passes away and try and apply it to your life. And through that, you can celebrate their life and make the world a better place.
Yeah. I was using this as my mantra for 2020. Like, well, hopefully we're learning something positive through all this negative. At the very least, through all this death, hopefully you're learning that not everybody should rely on a for-profit healthcare system, or that your healthcare should be tied to your employer. I don't know why we can't learn that. But hopefully we can all agree that maybe a little socialism is okay.
It works for some people. It just depends who you are, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. We appreciate you listening as always. You can find us on Twitter, again, at CTS Terry, or by searching for the Catch the Sky podcast on Instagram, Facebook, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Saif, we'll talk next week. Until then, keep trying to catch the sky, everybody.